You are on the What I Never Saw channel. Enjoy watching.
When Melanie came back from her business trip to San Diego, something was off. I couldn't tell you why I noticed it immediately. Maybe because I'd been living on edge for months, quietly questioning everything while pretending not to. But I did. From the moment she walked through the front door, suitcase in tow, I felt it in my gut. She smiled the way she always did, all polished and polite. Not too eager, not too cold. A rehearsed, practiced smile. Most people wouldn't have picked up on it. Hell, maybe even a few months ago I wouldn't have either, but now I saw it clear as day. "Hey, babe," she said lightly, brushing a lock of hair behind her ear. Flight was miserable. You know how it is. Turbulence, delays, screaming babies. I'm just glad to be home. I nodded, stepping in to hug her. She let me. Her arms came around me like they were following instructions. Not naturally, not with that warmth that used to be there. Her chin rested on my shoulder for a moment, and I caught a glimpse of her face over her collarbone. That's when I saw it. There was a lipstick smudge on her right cheek, just under her cheekbone. It wasn't glaring, nothing a lazy swipe of a tissue wouldn't leave behind, but it stood out to me because the shade wasn't hers. Melanie was a warm-tone kind of woman. Neutrals, soft pinks, the occasional mauve if she felt bold. This was bold. A deep, reddish-purple hue, like wine against her fair skin. It was faint, but it was there. And right below her jaw, near the line where her chin dipped into her neck, was something else. At first I thought it might have been razor burn, but she doesn't shave, and it didn't look like a breakout either. Just a reddish patch. A smear, maybe. I didn't want to know what it was, but I also couldn't unsee it. "Long week?" I asked. "You have no idea," she said, dropping her bag at the foot of the stairs. "Meetings every day. Barely got to see the city. I did bring you something, though." She walked over to her bag, unzipped the front pocket, and pulled out a small box. Inside was a keychain that said Old Town San Diego, EST 1769. She handed it to me like it was proof she'd been where she said she'd been. I turned it over in my hand. "Thanks." She didn't seem to notice my tone, or maybe she did, and ignored it. That was the new normal between us. We didn't talk about feelings or doubts or that thing growing in the silence between our conversations. We pretended. That night, she made herself a drink, vodka tonic, heavy on the lime. Sat on the couch. Turned on a reality show she didn't even watch anymore. She laughed in the right places. Acted engaged. Occasionally glanced my way like she was waiting for me to say something. But I didn't. I sat across from her, trying to read the signs in her body language. The way she crossed her legs. The way she held her phone with the screen tilted slightly away from me. The way her smile flickered when I asked about the conference. "Who went with you?" I asked casually, like I hadn't rehearsed the question in my head 15 times already. She barely blinked. "Just the marketing team. Stephanie, Troy, Melissa. You don't know them. All corporate types. You'd have been bored to tears." I said, nodding. "Sounds exhausting." She took another sip of her drink. "It was. I'm dead. I might just crash early." And she did, or claimed to. She disappeared upstairs around 10, leaving her half-finished vodka glass on the table, the lime slice sinking into the melting ice. I stayed downstairs. Watched her shadow move behind the blinds of our bedroom window. Watched the light go out. Then I sat in silence. I didn't go up right away. I just sat there thinking about how much had changed in the last year. We used to be the kind of couple people envied. Or at least we looked like it. Dinner parties, vacations, long talks at night about where we saw ourselves in 5 years. We had plans. We had names picked out for kids we never got around to having. We had a running list of places to visit together, cities to eat our way through, dreams to chase. One of those dreams, the restaurant, was still alive. The rest? I wasn't so sure anymore. The distance didn't happen overnight. It was slow, like a leak you don't notice until the water damage is permanent. She started sleeping in late, skipping weekend plans, saying, "I'm just tired," more often. Then came the locked phone, the work calls she took in her car, the sudden late-night strategy meetings in cities I'd never heard her company mention before. And I told myself for a long time not to jump to conclusions. I gave her every benefit of the doubt. I bent over backwards to keep us feeling normal. But that's the thing about pretending something isn't broken. Eventually, the cracks show. And that night they did. After she went to bed, I walked into the kitchen to get some water. That's when I saw it. A shopping list, written in her handwriting, left neatly on the marble counter. Bread, oat milk, eggs, strawberries, toilet paper, cinnamon. I stared at that word like it held a code I wasn't smart enough to crack. Melanie hated cinnamon, said it reminded her of childhood medicine. I once made her French toast and dusted it with cinnamon sugar, and she gave me that tight-lipped smile that meant, "I love you, but never do that again." It wasn't a spice we ever had in the house, so why write it down? I picked up the note, ran my thumb over the looped Y in strawberries. My brain started working backward. Cinnamon. For what? French toast? Baked apples? A pie? Or was it for someone else? That's when I realized I was asking the wrong question. It wasn't about what it was for. It was about who it reminded her of. I went to bed later that night than I should have, lying on the far side of the mattress while Melanie breathed softly beside me, already deep in sleep, or pretending to be. She didn't stir when I climbed in, didn't shift closer, just lay still, like we were two strangers who happened to share a bed. I stared at the ceiling in the dark, the silence between us louder than ever. There was a time I would have rolled over, kissed her shoulder, whispered something about how glad I was that she was home. But now, I didn't have it in me. That lipstick mark haunted me. That trace on her jaw. The too perfect keychain, the cinnamon on the list. The fake smile that looked like it had been practiced in a mirror. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't guessing anymore. That night, the denial cracked. Just a little. Not enough to shatter the whole thing, but enough to let in the truth. Something had happened in San Diego. And no matter how much she tried to play it off, no matter how many smiles or gift shop trinkets she brought home, the shift had already taken place. Everything that came next, I could already feel it gathering. Quiet, unstoppable. They say hindsight is 20/20ths, and I hate how right that is. Once the seed of doubt takes root, your memory becomes a crime scene. Every glance, every skipped kiss goodbye, every "be right back" starts to look like evidence. And I had a lot of it. I kept playing it back. Moments I'd shrugged off, the little inconsistencies I'd chalked up to work stress or mood swings. But now that the illusion was cracking, I could finally admit how much I'd chosen not to see. Started months ago, maybe 6, maybe more. I should have paid attention the first time her scent changed. Melanie had worn the same subtle floral perfume since our second anniversary. I knew it as well as I knew the smell of our sheets. But one day, I caught something different. It clung to her blazer when she draped it over the dining room chair. Sharp, masculine, cologne. New laundry detergent? I asked, trying to play it cool. She shrugged. Probably from hugging someone at work. You know how close quarters it gets in meetings. I nodded, because what else was I supposed to do? I didn't want to be that guy. Jealous. Possessive, insecure. I prided myself on trusting her, on giving her space. And she knew that. Then there was the phone. That damn phone. She used to scroll beside me in bed, share memes, laugh at dumb videos. But slowly it became this secret object. She started placing its screen down on the nightstand, kept her ringer on silent. The real shift came when she stopped leaving it unattended, even in our own house. I remember one evening in particular. We were supposed to watch a movie. I was already on the couch, popcorn made, blanket ready. She came down, phone in hand, and just as she sat beside me, it buzzed. Without a word, she stood up, walked out onto the porch, and shut the door behind her. I sat there, staring at the paused Netflix menu, listening to her muffled voice through the glass. When she came back inside 10 minutes later, I asked, "Everything okay?" She smiled. "Just Stephanie. Work stuff. Work calls at 9 p.m. On a Sunday?" She laughed like I was being silly. "You know how she is." But I didn't. I had never even met Stephanie. The calls didn't stop. They just got quieter, more private. She'd take them in her car, even on weekends. Sometimes she'd leave the house to go grab coffee, and come back an hour later with nothing but a half-finished iced latte. And then there was the location tracking. We had each other's locations shared on our phones, not out of mistrust, but convenience. It helped when planning meetups or figuring out if one of us was stuck in traffic. But about 3 months ago, her icon vanished. At first, I thought it was a glitch. "Your location's not showing," I said over breakfast. She looked at her phone like she was confused. "Weird. Must have updated or something. I'll fix it later." She never did. That was also around the time the retreats started. First, it was Chicago, then Austin, then a 3-day event in Scottsdale that sounded more like a bachelorette party than a corporate gathering. She said her company was investing in team bonding. She showed me glossy brochures, printed schedules, forwarded flight confirmations. And I bought it. God help me, I bought it all. Looking back, it's like watching myself in slow motion, yelling at the screen of a horror movie. "Don't go in there." But the guy doesn't hear you. He walks in anyway. There were signs at home, 2 signs I couldn't deny anymore. Our int *Macy was the first thing to go. I don't mean just S*X. I mean closeness. She stopped kissing me on the lips when she left for work. Stopped resting her head on my shoulder during movies. Even our hugs became brief, almost reluctant. I tried to bring it up once, gently. "You've been distant," I said as we were getting ready for bed. "Is everything okay?" She gave me a look that was somewhere between guilt and exhaustion. "I'm just tired. You've been so wrapped up in the restaurant lately. I figured you needed space." I didn't know how to respond to that, so I apologized for caring too much, apparently, and let it drop. We stopped sleeping in the same bed soon after. At first, it was because of her snoring or my tossing and turning. But over time, it became the norm. She moved into the guest room full-time. Brought in her own pillow, her favorite blanket, even a second phone charger. That hurt more than I let on. I kept telling myself couples go through phases. I had friends who went through rough patches. I told myself it was just stress, just temporary, just life. We were still having dinner together, still grocery shopping, still texting about errands. That had to mean something, right? But now I realize all those routines were just smoke and mirrors. Habit. Muscle memory. We'd become roommates with a shared history. There was a moment that crystallized everything for me. A few weeks before the San Diego trip, I came home early from a meeting. She didn't hear me come in. I guess I was quieter than usual. I found her sitting on the back deck, her phone pressed to her ear, her legs curled up under her like she was 16 again, and she was smiling. Not the forced, polite smile she gave me at dinner. A real one, laughing at something. Her voice was softer, warmer. Int *mate. I backed away before she saw me. I sat in the car for 15 minutes after that, staring at the steering wheel, trying to convince myself I didn't just witness what I thought I did. But I had. I knew it then, even if I didn't want to admit it. You don't fake a smile like that. You don't talk that way to someone who's just a coworker. You don't hide joy unless you know it would hurt someone else to see it. And I hadn't seen her smile like that at me in a long time. What makes all of this worse is how I started blaming myself. I asked if maybe I'd been too focused on my work, if I'd stopped being fun, if I'd let our spark fizzle out. But the truth? I tried. I really did. I planned date nights, tried new recipes, asked her about her day, left notes in her purse before her trips. I gave her space when she needed it. I showed up when she didn't ask. I wasn't perfect, but I was present. And she wasn't. That's the worst part. It's not even the cheating, not really. It's the choice to let me think everything was fine. To let me go on believing I was still her person, while she was out there building something new without me. One night, I opened the junk drawer in the kitchen to find a receipt tucked between the tape and takeout menus. It was from a bar in Las Vegas, a place called Palmetto Lounge. A date and time printed clearly, 2 days before she claimed to be in San Diego. I held it in my hand for a long time, just stared at the ink, wondering how much of my reality was built on things like this. Receipts she didn't expect me to find. I didn't ask her about it. Not yet. Not because I was afraid of the answer, but because I was finally starting to understand. She had already left this marriage. I just hadn't caught up yet. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't insecure. I wasn't imagining things. I was waking up. And once you start looking at things with open eyes, you can never go back to sleep. That Friday evening started with celebration. Not hers, mine. After 2 years of planning, zoning nightmares, endless contractor delays, and dipping into savings I once thought were for our future together, the restaurant was finally ready. I stood there in the empty dining room of what would become the split, lights dimmed to a soft glow, every table set. It was the first quiet moment I'd had in weeks. The name had started as a joke. Back then, Melanie and I had laughed about how we'd call it the split to serve half portions and divorce-worthy desserts. It was our thing, mocking foodie culture while dreaming about being part of it. We'd even brainstormed a signature dish called irreconcilable differences. 2 contrasting flavors on the same plate, perfectly incompatible. But now the name hit different. As I adjusted the placement of a fork, my phone buzzed on the host stand. I didn't recognize the number. No name, no context, just a single text with an image attached. I hesitated before tapping. When I opened it, my entire world shifted. It was Melanie, wearing white, standing beside a man I'd never seen before. The photo wasn't some blurry, drunk selfie or a beach sh*t you could explain away. No, it was formal, composed, taken in front of a clearly marked building with carved stone that read, in all caps, Clark County Marriage License Bureau, Las Vegas, Nevada. They were smiling. She held a bouquet of white roses. He had his arm wrapped around her waist, his fingers resting just a little too familiar on the small of her back. I knew that look. I'd worn that look. And beneath the photo, the message, thought you should know before someone else tells you. She got married yesterday. I stared at the screen, rereading it, blinking like I was trying to reboot my brain. Married? Married. That wasn't a fling. That wasn't a mistake. That was a decision. A ceremony. A legally binding vow made to someone who wasn't me. My hands were shaking. I had to sit down. I dropped into one of the booth seats, the leather cushion sighing under me like it knew what I was about to feel. All the signs, the lipstick, the distance, the missing location tracking, they weren't leading to a confession. They were leading to a wedding. My wife, no, ex-wife, if I was being honest, was someone else's bride now. And I hadn't even signed divorce papers. It's strange how the body reacts to betrayal. I didn't yell. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't cry. My chest just went cold. Like something inside me had decided, quietly and finally, to shut the lights off. I wanted to believe it was fake. A prank. Some kind of horrible mistake. But it wasn't. 10 minutes later, I found the marriage registration posted online. Public record. Full names. Exact date. There she was, Melanie Claire Reynolds. And next to her name, Travis Edward Shaw. Travis. Whoever the hell he was. I scrolled through the registration page like I might find some glitch. But it was all there. Filed. Processed. Legal. She'd married someone else behind my back. No talk. No separation agreement. No papers. Just a new name inked into a record like I didn't even exist. And you know what stuck with me? Not the betrayal. Not the cheating. Not even the lies. It was how calm she'd been when she got home. She had walked into our kitchen like nothing happened. Left a shopping list. Slept in the same bed. Kissed me on the cheek with another man's name probably still echoing in her vows. Who does that? Who goes from wearing a white dress in Vegas to grocery shopping with their husband the next day? I looked at the date again. The photo was timestamped 3:42 p.m. Thursday. She flew back Friday morning. Less than 24 hours later, she was in our house. Our bed. Pretending everything was normal. I don't know how long I sat there. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. The only reason I moved at all was because someone knocked on the glass front door of the restaurant. Amanda. I hadn't expected to see her until next week. But there she was, clipboard in hand, her brown hair pulled back into a loose ponytail. She was one of my vendors, wine distribution originally. I'd always known her as polite, professional, nothing more. But that day she saved me. She looked through the glass, saw my face, and immediately walked in without waiting for me to unlock the door. "Tyler, you okay?" she asked. I don't remember what I said exactly. Maybe nothing. I just handed her my phone. She stared at the screen. Her expression changed slowly, confusion, then realization, then something like recognition. She sat down across from me. "Is that Melanie?" I nodded. She looked at the man beside her in the photo and let out a sound that was part gasp, part laugh. "Oh my God," she whispered. "That's my husband." Silence. We stared at each other. Then the reality hit us both. Melanie had married Amanda's husband, Travis Shaw. We weren't just victims of an affair. We were the abandoned halves of a new union. The collateral damage. "You didn't know?" I asked, voice hoarse. She shook her head. "No. We've been separated a few months. He said he needed time. He said he was staying with his brother. He never mentioned Melanie. Ever." I leaned back in the booth, stunned. "They got married." She looked at the photo again, eyes narrowed. "She wore white." I nodded. Amanda exhaled through her nose. "What a joke." I felt something shift in me. Not quite relief, not quite rage. Just the weird clarity that comes when the worst thing imaginable has already happened. There was nothing left to guess. The guessing was over. I wasn't the only one. Amanda and I sat there for a long time, neither of us talking much, just letting the weight of it settle. Eventually, she said, "You know what the wildest part is?" "What?" "He's still legally married to me." I looked at her, stunned. "I haven't signed the papers," she said. "We never filed. That wedding, that's not just betrayal, it's bigamy." My jaw tightened. Something inside me clicked. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This wasn't about feelings. It was about facts, dates, signatures, timelines. She had made it legal without it being legal. There would be consequences. Amanda stood, smoothing her hands down her jeans. "I'll get you everything I have. Emails, texts, phone records. If you're going after them, I'm in." I didn't have to say yes. She knew from my expression. This wasn't going to end in quiet heartbreak. It was going to end in fire. They say rock bottom is where you find out what you're really made of. Turns out, I'm made of quiet rage, good bourbon, and an almost surgical sense of timing. After that night at the restaurant, after Amanda and I sat across from each other and realized just how deep our spouse's betrayal had gone, I didn't spiral. I didn't text Melanie. I didn't confront Travis. I didn't post a dramatic rant or get blackout drunk. No, I went quiet, strategic, because if they thought they could get away with it, get married in Vegas while still legally tied to 2 other people, then they clearly had no idea who they were messing with. Amanda was the first person to really get it. Not just what had happened, but the flavor of the betrayal. The specific type of erasure that comes from being lied to for months while someone you trusted crafted a new life without you. She texted me the next morning. No emojis. No awkward phrasing. "I'm in. Let's burn the whole thing down." And that's exactly what we did. But here's the thing, before it was fire, it was business. That same morning, I called my contractor and moved the soft launch of the split forward. We'd already had a few tasting nights for friends and investors. The kitchen was ready. The menu was solid. All I needed was a manager who could keep things tight while I handled the legal fallout. I called Amanda. It was a gamble. I didn't know if she had restaurant experience, but she had something better: composure and motive. "I don't have a background in hospitality," she admitted over coffee that week. "But I've managed teams, budgets, PR campaigns, vendor contracts. I pick things up fast." I slid the job offer across the table. "You'll learn faster with a key to the office." She looked at me for a long moment, then signed. That's how it started, this weird partnership born from betrayal. 2 people standing in the rubble of their old lives, picking through the mess for salvageable parts. The first few weeks were chaos. Not in a bad way, more like in that manic 2 a.m. startup energy kind of way. We worked late, moved furniture, rewrote the wine list, figured out staffing gaps. At one point, Amanda reorganized the POS system and caught an accounting glitch that saved us over $1,000 in licensing fees. She was sharp, focused. It wasn't long before regulars started showing up. People drawn in by the buzz or the strange, poetic symmetry of our story. We never told the full truth to customers, of course. But word got around. The name The Split took on new meaning. Felt good. Productive. Like every plate that left the kitchen was a small, quiet middle finger to the two people who thought they could rewrite our futures without asking. But it wasn't just work. Somewhere between the inventory spreadsheets and the after-hours whiskey toasts, Amanda and I found a rhythm. Not romance. Not at first. Just understanding. There's a certain language only people who've been betrayed like this speak. It's in the pauses, the late-night looks, the mutual decision not to ask "How are you doing?" because the answer is obvious and constant. Not great, but trying. We joked a lot. That was our thing. Dark humor, sarcasm, gallows wit. Like when I found a reservation under the name Melanie S. and stared at it for a full 30 seconds before Amanda leaned over and whispered, "Should I set the table with divorce papers instead of napkins?" Or when we discovered Travis had a Yelp review from 5 years ago complaining about a place overcooking scallops. "I'm not saying I want to serve him raw seafood," Amanda said, "but I'm also not saying it." We laughed so we wouldn't scream. We worked so we wouldn't unravel. And slowly, almost without realizing it, the pain got quieter. There was a moment about 6 weeks in that I still think about. It was after closing. We'd cleaned the kitchen, locked the doors, dimmed the lights. I was counting receipts at the bar. Amanda was perched on a stool, barefoot, sipping red wine straight from the bottle because we'd run out of clean glasses. "You ever think about what you'd say to them?" she asked. I didn't need clarification. "Melanie and Travis?" She nodded. I paused, then said, "No, I think about what I won't say." She raised an eyebrow. "I won't give them a single second of my peace. That's the win. Not the shouting. Not the drama. Just not caring." She was quiet for a while, then clinked her bottle against my water glass. To not caring. We drank. But it wasn't entirely true. I still cared. We both did. That's what made us dangerous. While the split grew in popularity, Amanda and I worked the other side of things, quietly, thoroughly, legally. She contacted her attorney and initiated a formal divorce. A clean cut, fast-tracked, expedited, bulletproof. Meanwhile, I froze our joint accounts, changed the passwords on everything. I pulled Melanie off the house deed, transferred our savings into a private trust. The kind of moves you make when you've stopped waiting for an apology and started preparing for a court date. Melanie still hadn't brought up the Vegas wedding. She came home late one night, still wearing her work badge, heels in hand, and asked if I could pick up her dry cleaning the next morning. I looked her in the eye and said, "You're married now. Ask your husband." She blinked. I walked away. The next day, I texted her a photo of the Clark County marriage record, just to be sure we were on the same page. No response. That weekend, Amanda sent me a screen recording, Travis's name on the guest list of a couple's retreat in Palm Springs. 2 spots reserved. Paid in full. The date? 2 weeks before the Vegas wedding. We were building a case. Not out of revenge. Out of necessity. Because what they did wasn't just cruel, it was illegal. Bigamy is still a crime in most states. And Travis? He never finalized his divorce with Amanda. The paperwork hadn't been processed. Which meant when he said, "I do" to Melanie in front of some Elvis impersonator, he was still legally bound to someone else. That's not just adultery. That's a felony. Amanda's lawyer took it from there. Melanie's HR department got a formal complaint. Her company hadn't sanctioned the San Diego trip. The receipt from the Vegas hotel, the flight itinerary, the marriage certificate, all of it painted a clear picture. Meanwhile, the split was thriving. We had a wait list, press inquiries. People loved the story. 2 people rebuilding after betrayal, finding purpose instead of pity. It was a brand, a vibe. And for once, I wasn't pretending. I wasn't smiling to hide pain. I was smiling because I'd built something real from the wreckage. One night, after closing, Amanda and I were sitting in the kitchen again. Same setup, same wine, same exhaustion. "Think they're happy?" she asked, voice low. I thought about it. Maybe, but not in the way that lasts. She nodded slowly. Yeah, me neither. I looked at her, this woman who had become my co-conspirator, my business partner, my witness. We were both still healing, but the wounds didn't bleed anymore. They just scarred. Clean. Closed. "We're going to be okay," I said. She looked at me, something unspoken passing between us. "Yeah," she whispered. "We already are." The night before I pulled the trigger on everything, I stood in the driveway with the garage light buzzing above me, keys in one hand and a folder in the other. Inside that folder was every document, login, and receipt I'd need to finally shut the door, legally, financially, and emotionally, on Melanie. It had been 3 days since she last slept in the house. 2 since she texted me, casually, to say she was staying a few nights with a friend to think some things through. I didn't respond. By then, the thinking was done. This wasn't about feelings anymore. It was about defense, strategic, silent, and surgical. The next morning, I executed every step of the plan I'd been building for weeks. The lawyer Amanda had connected me with called it the clean cut. No scenes, no screaming, just action. First, I froze the joint checking and savings accounts. I'd left them active until then because I wanted to track her transactions, see where the money was flowing. Now, with enough data collected and backup accounts in place, I pulled the plug. Our names were both on those accounts. She could see the balance drop to 0, but she couldn't touch the funds anymore. Not a penny. Then came the digital locks. I'd upgraded the system the week after she got back from San Diego, quietly installed a new smart deadbolt and paired it to an app she never had access to. Old keys were disabled. Keypads changed. Cameras online and recording. The house was mine. Fully, legally. She just didn't know it yet. I opened the safe in the hallway closet and pulled out the property deed. Something she'd always brushed off as your thing, because she hated paperwork. I had the original purchase documents, the refinance agreement in my name only, and the updated deed showing sole ownership. Next came the cloud accounts. Our shared email? Locked. Streaming services? Logged out. Insurance, utilities, everything that could be *p***nized. Switched, shut off, rerouted. I even pulled the plug on our shared Spotify. I wanted her to feel it, even in the little ways. The final step was the paperwork. I left it all in a sealed envelope on the kitchen counter, propped against a glass vase. Inside was a copy of the marriage certificate from Las Vegas, the printed flight records from her trip, and a notarized statement from Amanda's attorney confirming that Travis was still legally married when he wed Melanie. On top of the stack was a note I had typed, printed, and folded with precision. "Don't come back here. Not until you're ready to face the truth in court." She showed up around noon, right as I was finishing up a meeting with our new produce supplier. I saw her pull into the driveway from the restaurant's live feed. I'd set up a back-end connection between the security cameras and my laptop. She looked tired. Not the kind of tired that comes from lack of sleep, but the kind that settles in your bones when the world you've been lying to starts cracking beneath you. I watched her try her key, then her backup key, then the keypad. Nothing. She stepped back, phone in hand, and I knew exactly who she was calling. I let it go to voicemail. Twice. Then she knocked. Rang the bell. Knocked again. Finally, she sat down on the front steps and waited. Half an hour passed. I got another call. Ignored it. Eventually, a police cruiser pulled into the driveway. I closed my laptop and drove home. When I arrived, she was standing beside the officer, gesturing toward the door, looking desperate but rehearsed. The moment she saw me, she straightened up, like she was about to put on her best, I'm just confused voice. "Mr. Grant?" the officer said as I stepped out of the car. "That's me. Your wife is claiming she's been locked out of the property. She says this is a misunderstanding." I nodded slowly, then pulled the deed out of my glove box. "She's mistaken. I said, handing him the documents. This property is in my name only. Here's the updated title. She hasn't lived here legally in over a month. I'd like her trespassing documented. The officer looked through the paperwork, then turned back to her. Ma'am, do you have any proof of residency? Utility bills? Mail? Anything with your name and this address? She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her eyes darted to me. Tyler, come on. Can we talk about this like adults? I left you everything you need to understand, I said. It's inside, in a folder with your name on it. What folder? She snapped. I didn't come inside, because you changed the locks, right? I said calmly. Because you got married to someone else. The officer's eyebrows rose just slightly. Melanie's face turned pale. That wasn't what it looked like. Then you won't mind if I submit the marriage record to court, I said, holding up my phone with the image pulled up. The one of her and Travis, smiling in front of the Las Vegas registry. She froze. The officer took a step back. I think it's best if both parties consult legal counsel before continuing this conversation. I already have, I said. Melanie's voice broke. Tyler, please. I made a mistake. A mistake is a text message you regret, I said. You filed paperwork. You said vows. You committed fraud. She looked like she wanted to speak again, but the officer gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Ma'am, we're going to have to ask you to leave the premises. If you wish to pursue residency rights, you'll need to go through legal channels. She didn't move for a few seconds, just stood there, jaw clenched, staring at me like she was trying to memorize my face for some closing statement. Then she turned and walked back to her car. I didn't watch her leave. That night, I sat alone in the kitchen with the folder she never picked up. I thought about tossing it in the fireplace, but part of me wanted it untouched, preserved, a monument to the moment everything changed. Amanda called later. How'd it go? She tried to cry, tried to play the victim. Classic. Didn't work. There was a pause. Tyler. Yeah. I just got an email from HR. Travis has been placed on administrative leave pending review. I closed my eyes. Good. He was using company funds for the Palm Springs trip. Claimed it was a networking expense. We both laughed at that. Quiet, dry, exhausted. Then she said something that stuck with me. This isn't revenge. You know that, right? We're not getting even. We're just getting free. She was right. The point wasn't to hurt them. It was to protect what was left of ourselves. To put up walls where the damage had been done. To stop the bleeding and start building again. That week, my lawyer filed for divorce under grounds of adultery, fraud, and abandonment. Everything was documented. Emails, photos, financial records, Amanda's notarized affidavit, Travis's unresolved marital status. The bigamy case was being reviewed by the DA's office. I wasn't holding my breath for jail time, but Melanie's clean record? That was about to change. She tried to call twice more, then sent an email. Subject: I messed up. Message: I don't expect you to forgive me, but please, don't do this. You're better than this. I didn't respond, because she was right about one thing. I was better than this. But now I was also better without her.